Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 57. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you guys for being back with us here this Monday, this Victory Monday, as the Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday, 19-16, pushing Pittsburgh's record to 5-7 on the year. And Dave, first of all, congrats on calling this one. You and I split differently, or split yesterday or on Friday's show about picking this game, and so you won the week as the Steelers did. Kind of a weirdly emotional game on a lot of different levels. This one, not going to be one of the greatest games in Steelers history, but a pretty memorable performance in Atlanta on Sunday.
Yeah, there's going to be several little things I think that we look back on this game and remember overall. And thankfully, obviously, a win being attached to it on top of it there. Man, what about, I told you, Steelers fans. I mean, yeah, it's no secret Steelers fans show up to these road games, and the whole narrative that they travel well as if they're coming from Pittsburgh. No, that's not how this works with this. It's just the fact that Steeler fans are all over the place, and there's such a large contingent of them down south and into Florida and Alabama and obviously Georgia and on into Louisiana, areas that are really make Atlanta very, very accessible. So I bet, as soon as this schedule came out and people found out that this game, this year was going to be in Atlanta, a lot of Steeler fans, that normally can't make, long trips or maybe, can't afford to fly it, willing to drive it. That's how it works. I think really just growing up down south and knowing that, man, I had the rarity of the Steelers getting close especially to my town, Pensacola was rare. And, Atlanta's, 6-hour, 7-hour drive or whatnot, that you can make. You could see this coming, that they were going to have a large turnout of Steeler fans. And boy, did they. It was almost like a home game for them, at least from the TV aspect and several shots that I saw. So kudos to fans for supporting their team that way. And I think at certain points of the game, it made a little bit of a difference even.
Yeah, I saw a video that our own Ross McCorkle had posted on Twitter, and he was at that game pregame and just walking around and just filming, and just a random group of people. And it was, as he tweeted, about probably 80% Steeler fans. So it really was a home game, and it had that kind of feel. I mean, the Falcons were false starting and stuff like that. And so it really, in your experience, in your time in Savannah and in Florida, did it feel like it was a really strong contingency of Steelers fans?
Yeah, look, in Savannah, there was a Steelers bar there, coach's corner there, and actually had two locations in town, and you could count on being able to see the Steelers game at either one of those two locations, just because just a large contingent of Steeler fans. Now, back in Pensacola, I worked quite a bit different. A lot of times growing up, I wasn't able to even watch games live back then. So I don't remember, but I know there was a large contingent of Steeler fans in Florida, period. And obviously, anytime, the few times that I would go see a game, go over to Jacksonville or over to New Orleans. Once again, Steelers Nation was everywhere. So I wasn't a bit surprised to see the kind of turnout that they had in Atlanta. That's for sure.
Bit of housekeeping before we talk about the game itself. On Saturday, the Steelers making a roster move, activating rookie defensive lineman DeMarvin Leal off of injured reserve. He had been on there since prior to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with a knee injury, so good to get him back and healthy. A corresponding move, of course, had to be made to put Leal on the 53, and that was cornerback Akella Witherspoon, who was placed on IR after missing another chunk of weeks with that hamstring injury. So effectively his season's over at this point. Technically, I think he could come back before the year ends, but don't really count on that overall. So a lost season, unfortunately, for Witherspoon. Leal playing 7 snaps, mainly as a third down interior rusher in yesterday's game. From an active standpoint, Isaiah Loudermilk goes back to inactive with Leal being up. Other than that, pretty status quo when it comes to the guys who did not dress.
Yeah, I wanted to get out of Witherspoon in totality. The equivalent of 3 games, because didn't he leave the third game around, or the third game against the Browns like around halftime, and then about the same against the Eagles as well too. I mean, I think he appeared in 4 games, but I think you look at totality of snaps is about the equivalent of 3 games with him.
And those snaps were not very good. So as you talked about, he's a hard guy to trust to put it all together. Luckily, there isn't a ton of guaranteed money with him. He is under contract next year. I imagine he'll be back just to see, but
just to
his
compete.
Role,
yeah,
right, his role, his status with the team, very much unknown.
Yeah, look, he's not going to kill you from a salary cap perspective, but on top of it, the guaranteed money aspect and all like that. I mean, if you could upgrade the position, you upgrade the position. So we'll see if he ends up getting back up off IR, later in the season. I'm with you. I kind of doubt it at this point, but it's not unthinkable. And then when you get into next season or next off season, I would expect him to stick. It's just a matter of, will he stick past the setting of the 53-man roster?
All right, let's talk about this game. And just off the top, and I tweeted this shortly after, and it was the reason why I incorrectly picked Atlanta in this game. Credit to this entire Pittsburgh team, both players, coaching staff, support staff, trainers, etc., because you just played 2 games in 6 days, both on the road, and you won them both. And I understand the Colts and the Falcons are not the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Bengals and these higher echelon type of teams, but I don't care. It's the NFL, and that's so tough to do. And I think the Colts and the Falcons both had their strengths and weren't the worst teams in football either. So just as a matter of principle, to do that, 2 road wins in 6 days, that is incredibly tough to do. And I don't want to overlook that because it's easy to do so just when you're looking at numbers and watching the game, but just the whole logistical aspect of it, really impressive by this team. And their first winning streak of the season.
Oh, yeah. And, I tell you, defensively, they looked a little bit sluggish and tired overall. TJ Watt was not right in that game. and,
Definitely.
And he revealed the second to the last, I think he said the second to the last play in the game against the Colts. He got ribbed pretty good there, and that's why he showed up on the injury report this past week. And I think wearing some sort of a rib protector in this game, he looked a little bit sluggish in this game as well too. So look, I mean, any W in the National Football League is tough to get. I don't care who you play and all, and for them to do that on a short week like they did on the road, is quite an accomplishment, even if it was a team that I kind of viewed that they probably should beat regardless of the situation there. So kudos to them. First time this year we're talking about back-to-back wins.
Yeah, certainly feels good. So where do you want to start here, Dave? Offense, defense, where do you want to begin discussing and dissecting this game?
Let's talk first about special teams and how make sure we get the proper kudos out there when it comes to that. Mike Tomlin talked early in the week, and it's one thing that we knew right off the bat when you talk. I mean, how many conversations have we had about Cordarrelle Patterson ahead of this game? And Mike Tomlin saying, look, you got to be careful when it comes to the kicking game and kicking to that guy specifically, because he'll house one on you, for lack of a better word. When the coin toss happened, I was glad to see the Steelers not have to kick off to start this thing. But I tell you what, they did a great job of game planning around the kickoff and keeping the football out of the hands of Cordarrelle Patterson. The little pooch early. I mean, they and then I think ended up being three other touchbacks in here. Patterson never touched the football on kickoffs. Nope. And You kicked off quite a few times in this game, and I think when you look at the average starting field position of all these kicks, I mean, what was it? Let's see. Kick returns. Williams had 2 for 45, 22.5 average. Smith had 1 for 10 yards, and then you had 3 touchbacks. I mean, that's doing the job there. So I think first and foremost, you got to just say, kudos to the game planning and the execution on the special teams aspect of not letting a guy like Cordarrelle Patterson impact the game in that area.
Absolutely. In this era where kickoffs are less of a thing than they used to be, you're not usually talking about placement and keeping away from a player and things like that, but it was required in this game. And I don't know how many game balls they give out. There were certainly several players deserving of one, but I hope Matthew Wright got one, because not only what he did as a kicker, making 4 field goals, 3 from 46 plus, but the placement on those kicks. And that's not an easy thing to do, to have good placement, keep it in bounds, and hang time and all those kinds of things. It's different from the norm of how you usually operate on kickoff. So as you said, Patterson did not touch the ball once. Field position, not an issue in this game. And then you're talking special teams and Presley Harvin, his probably the best punt of his career, down to 1 there before making a called game. So across the board, special teams was excellent.
Yeah, look, outside of that muff on a punt by Sims, that luckily he recovered there. Pretty, like you said, Matthew Wright, and that might have been the last game that Matthew Wright kicks for this team, because Chris Boswell, the report is that he'll be available and come off IR this week and kick against the Ravens now on Sunday there. So just across the board, I think you got to give special teams at least an A-, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know what Josh put the grade at there on his report, but it should be pretty high overall, I imagine. A-, exactly. What you suggested there. A way to my heart, Dave, talking special teams here early. Right. So, but yeah, it was so critical in this game for multiple reasons, multiple layers, and it got the job done. So kudos to Danny Smith, and that's why I say Danny Smith forever, and I will not change my tone no matter what. But let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense after we talk about special teams here. It was more of the same in terms of that Colts game, Falcons game, pretty similar offensively, defensively, continue to run the ball effectively, efficiently, convert on third down, still struggling to finish some opportunities, but still play, mistake-free football overall and just really control the ball and control the clock.
Man, what did we say before the season started what a Steelers win would look like this season? Running the football, not turning the football over, get some defensive play in there, and probably win some, only scoring 19 or 20 points. And that's exactly what you got in this one. Now, the running game, I tell you what, right now, you rewind back to kind of our thoughts in the preseason and the offensive line and worried about that, especially when it comes to the running game there. This is a night and day look at the offensive line, especially from the run game perspective. Man, you go back and even in a TV tape, because we've yet to, the all-22's yet to drop yet, you can see them getting good push off the offensive line in these last couple of games, and this one specifically. And I thought they might be able to run, like I said last week against the Colts, I thought that they might be able to run the football against the Falcons. And talking about running the football, this might have been, quite honestly, and there obviously hasn't been many games that overall in his career, but this might be the most, on a run-by-run aspect, best game that Najee Harris has had.
I don't think there's a might about it. I think it absolutely was. I mean, he ran angry. He was breaking tackles. He had leg drive. He looked like a fully healthy, that's who you drafted. That's who you saw the vast majority of last year, Najee Harris. I believe the stat was 40 of his 86 yards came after contact. I mean, he was creating. I mean, the blocking was good in some respect, but they didn't always get the job done. And his vision,
and he earned some, yeah,
absolutely. So I mean, that was and that's the mark of, that's what you want from a running back, to get more than what's blocked, beyond what's blocked. Any running back worth their salt in the NFL can get what's there. It's what's not there immediately, what you create on your own. Harris was routinely doing that. A good rotation overall, using all three backs that more active in Jaylen Warren, more third down, his blocking on the edge, you pointed out. I mean, get Warren as a lead blocker. I mean, he's just he's about angry little man. He's an angry little man that blocks like it. Benny Snell on some early down work. So, yeah, I thought the backs overall really stepped up yesterday.
Yeah, I have no issue with kind of that rotation either. If it helps keep, if they want to elongate Najee's career, this is the kind of stuff that they're going to have to do. They're going to have a second or a third back kind of relieve some carries off of him and handle some third down work. And I know that kind of goes against what Mike Tomlin generally likes to do. He likes to have that bell cow out there. Right. But I think it makes Najee a better back if you can spell him a little bit more. And look, say what you will, and I know it won't go unnoticed in the running back room and in the team meetings, but Benny Snell is doing everything and more of what you want him to do on the offensive side of football. And Warren obviously as well. They seem like they tried to tamp, Warren's first game back with that hamstring, probably didn't want to do too terribly much with him, but he was pretty impactful in a few plays that he was on the field.
Yeah, it felt like, and Tom's charting, which just came in, maybe I can do our weekly, let me pull up information as we talk about it thing. It felt like Warren was more in his role of a third down back, Snell rotational, first and second down. Harris, of course, your starter. I know Warren did play some on early downs and got one carry in this game, but it felt like there was more of a clearer division of labor there. But regardless, just a good, healthy rotation. Everybody played fresh. And that's probably one reason why Harris ran so well, because he was constantly, coming in fresh.
And look, everybody does, probably tiring of those Steven Sims, jet runs, but a couple of them were effective, I
mean, they better do something because the pass game's not offering anything for the slot receivers. So you better be contributing something in the run game. I think also some of the motion, pull some of those linebackers. The Falcons on my tape study prior to this game responded to motion pretty heavily. And so you saw in some of those Najee Harris runs, a lot of, jet motion that kind of pulled those linebackers just a little bit that kind of messes with their eyes and their keys.
They rushed for 154 yards, and how many games in a row now have they, or what's the 3-game total? The stat that Mike put up there from PR, I forget exactly what it said, but I mean, this team is running the football now. So, you've got to respect that on top of it. And, the starting five, once again, knock on wood, playing together quite a bit. I mean, not many of these guys up front have missed snaps throughout the season here. So you got the continuity aspect of it and all. And I just thought there was just in general, and obviously it wasn't every play, but there was good push on the offensive line and on the plays where there wasn't. I thought Najee Harris did a good job of earning some hard yards. I haven't calculated his success rate, but it's got to be over 50% in that game.
Yeah, no gaudy run. His longest was 14, which probably should have been a lot longer. It was like the turf monster got him there, unfortunately, but just consistently ran well. Not a lot of negative plays in this one, and that's important. To answer the question, Jaylen Warren looks like 15 total offensive snaps, 8 of those on third down. So again, primarily third down type role, but I think the rotation worked well overall.
Right, I agree. So run game obviously is one thing that you come out of that game feeling good about.
And to your point, it's a really crucial one that's, again, one of those things that's easy to overlook, take for granted until you realize you don't have it, but the continuity with the offensive line. Maybe finally, after all this time, because they've literally worked together healthy since day one of training camp. So it's been a process and ebbs and flows and growing pains. But when you're playing together for this long, it's almost inevitable that you're going to start to gel and your combo blocks are better and cleaner and the communication's cleaner and you're seeing things better in your zone, movement and stuff like that. So when you have an offensive line that is not great, but is just intact, which is so rare in the NFL, you have so many lines that are rotating people and they're playing 10 different people this year. That's a hidden benefit to your run game and your offense overall.
And look, we talked about him. I don't want to spend too much time because we talked about him in the last show. Mason Cole's very, very confident. I think you just get the sense that when he goes up to the offensive line and he's making some of these calls or whatnot, pointing things out, he just oozes confidence, I think there. So ended up being a pretty good ad by the Steelers at that position.
Yeah, and James Daniels is night and day from where he was this summer, just in terms of comfort and using the techniques, the hop step and pass pro stuff like that. So And I know core four, I think he played hurt in this one. I felt like he got hurt early and was kind of with his wrist or something. Then he had a stinger and came out for a couple of snaps. And Trent Scott got his first work at tackle, offensive tackle this year. But a core four came back in. So yeah, I should have mentioned from an in-game injury standpoint, not a lot to note. According to Mike Tomlin, he'll of course speak to the media on Tuesday. Said that TJ Watt, as you mentioned earlier, was pretty beat up in this game. Levi Wallace, Terrell Edmonds temporarily leaving both returns. Same with the core four. So it just seems like the bumps and bruises you get when you're playing 2 games in 6 days.
Aggie, Bronco.
You had fun listening to line calls. That's how you spent your Sunday night.
Yeah, I did.
Can you explain those just real quickly for those?
I mean, and great boom mic. There's certain stadiums where I think where that boom mic probably picks up things there, but you can hear almost all the calls that Mason Cole was making, and Aggie ended up being to the left side because slide protection left because Dan Moore, Texas A&M, Aggie there, and a little bit, you had them figured out by the end of the first quarter there because later on there was a Bronco call, and obviously Chiquamo Okorafor, Western Michigan Bronco there. So you didn't have to be a heart scientist or a rocket surgeon to I don't think to figure that out sitting here in mom's basement in your underwear here, but it was fun to see that. I didn't see them kind of code off of that because sometimes you'll see them use that and then they'll use a trigger word that will trigger the opposite of it, to keep teams guessing. But I mean, they didn't have a whole heck of a lot of snaps. Really, where you heard a lot of line calls, I don't think, especially in the second half there. So definitely I would think about changing that up before the next game.
I'm sure they will, but hopefully we will not have to learn where Trent Scott went to college. If we don't, that means that the guy stayed healthy, and that's the ultimate goal there. So anything else with the run game? I think that sums it up well with the pass game. Again, it was a solid performance. Kenny Pickett not doing too much, not making any sort of mistakes. It was certainly a tight end heavy type of offense. The receivers did very little in this game. Overall, we can talk about the frustration that George Pickens had and Deontay Johnson's performance, but just on a positive note there, the tight ends kind of ruling the day. Pat Freiermuth really ascending. Connor Heyward, his first career touchdown. So, I mean, this was a very old school game in the sense of it was run game, tight ends. Those are the people who dominated and created the stories that produced the win.
This is like a Ben Roethlisberger 2004 win, wasn't it?
Very much.
Let's see, 105 yards after the catch for the Steelers in the passing game on just 16 catches. It was highlighted, obviously, by the 48 yak that Pat Freiermuth had on his long catch and run, which, by the way, is a new longest play from scrimmage for the Steelers this season. That was good to see, a double explosive play there. And look, only 16 catches, but I mean, you even saw guys like Deontay Johnson get a little bit of yak. I mean, not a ton, but 105 on 16 catches. I'll take it. Even if one of them was a huge chunk, nearly half of them come from Pat Freiermuth there. But that's the kind of stuff that you need with this offense, those explosive plays and those double explosive plays to help offset, running a lot of plays where you might try to shoot yourself in the foot, which the Steelers did indeed try to do, unfortunately, in this game. I thought overall, I mean, top to bottom, you look at Kenny Pickett, 16 of 28. That means obviously 12 passes incomplete. One of those is obviously a throwaway. One was a drop by Deontay, right? 2, I think, got thrown into the carpet. One was maybe one that Sims probably should have caught, even though it was a little bit low there. One was a probably the biggest miss of the game for him, was Pat Freiermuth down the seam. He's got to hit that. We agree, right?
Sure. I mean, he said as much.
Right. And he said as much there. And then let's see, one of the incompletions was deep ball down the left side in a ball that probably didn't even have any business throwing that one, right?
To Deontay. Yeah, Deontay actually
right.
made a good play to make sure that was not picked off.
Right. That was probably you were asking for it wherever the ball placement was, because I think that safety gets over the top. Either you got to throw that early or not have the double move aspect of it. But anyway, I consider that one maybe one that he got away with in this game overall. But there were a couple of nice throws in this game. I thought top to bottom he managed the game well from a passing situation. You would like to have seen him maybe complete a couple of more of these passes here. But look, the touchdown to Connor Heyward was a great call at the right time. Great pass. One you better hit that one right there. But I felt good about his performance overall. There was just a few more passes in there that he probably should have. The early throw to Pat Freiermuth where he starts right and whips around all the way to the left, and man, he put that ball right on the button.
Yep.
In that one for him and you look at his feet work in that. And how he's able to quickly reset and stride into that throw. That was probably his best throw of the game, to be honest with you. Just from what he was asked for, what he needed to do on that play. So we saw the accuracy with him in this game. Once again, you probably handful of those balls you'd like to see completed, but top to bottom, what a bad throwing performance on his part.
Yeah, it doesn't look like much on the stat sheet, 8-yard completion, whatever it was to Freiermuth, but it's a full field read going right to left, eyes, feet in sync. He's mechanically, I'm not an expert in quarterback mechanics, but he's mechanically, to what I can gather, a very clean quarterback. And some of the guys that I trust, whenever he came out, talked about mechanically how sound he was, and I think that's carried over, and that's what makes him an accurate quarterback overall. But to the point you made earlier, so the two longest plays Pittsburgh's had this year in the pass game are from tight ends, right? Pat Freiermuth and Connor Heyward. So that has that 0-4 kind of feel to it where your big plays are coming from your tight ends. But with Freiermuth, I meant to do a video on this. I'm going to sound like I'm smarter because I'm saying I was going to do it and I didn't actually do it. But even prior to this game, it felt like Freiermuth, one of the biggest jumps he had made from last year was post-catch, being so that old quick to the tuck, which old receivers coach Scotty Montgomery talked about, as soon as you make the catch, get upfield. And it's felt like he's been quicker upfield, and certainly on that 57-yard run, he's immediately turning upfield, and that's good ball placement that creates the opportunity, so that has to be talked about as well. But Freiermuth is showing some burst post-catch that he did not always show as a rookie.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And we've talked about how his average yards per catch needed to go up this year, with Freiermuth, and it has. And that's obviously good to see. Look, the only here we are back talking about the two things that we want to see progress in this offense, and Kenny Pickett in particular moving forward, right? Burying the red zone trips and being able to connect downfield a little bit further, more consistently, and everything else. I don't really have much of an issue with the other portions of Kenny Pickett's game. I think this is just the area that we need to continue to hopefully watch grow in this, because look, they moved the football in this game, right? First, and we won't count the fifth possession because that was just we want to get it to halftime right here. But their first four possessions, man, they ran 16, 12, 4, and 9 plays in total here, and field goal, touchdown, field goal. Four scoring drives, but you only come away with 16 points in that. That's got to be better, because that had they scored a touchdown on one of those other drives, that really kind of really changes the complexion of the game in the second half, because the Falcons did not do a good job early in the game of being able to establish the running game, something that you knew that they wanted to do. But when you had that game as close as it was at halftime, it allowed the Falcons come out and still try to do what their identity is, and they started to do it. They started to have success doing that, and so long story short, and we've seen this now for a couple games. We're insatiable, right? We want to see them move the football, and they start moving the football. Now we want points to go along with it. So, I thought they did a really good job, especially in the first half, of moving the football down the field. Now what they got to do is start, cashing in. And it's not necessarily red zone opportunities because they're stalling kind of outside of the red zone. However, that's coming after they've been inside the red zone. When you look at specifically the plays that this team ran inside the red zone, they shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, the red zone fringe. And as a quick sidebar, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the Panthers are releasing Baker Mayfield. And so he will hit waivers, and we'll see where he goes, to San Francisco or who knows where. And so not that he wasn't really in contention to start in Pittsburgh, I guess, is that week 15, 2 weeks from now. But a note there on a former Brown and now a former Panther.
Yeah, I guess they're going to go with Darnold, right? The Panthers will.
And PJ Walker, I guess, is still there as well.
And why wouldn't you, after all you've gone through with the whole Baker thing, why wouldn't you at least try to see if you could get compensatory value out of it? Unless he's just saying, guys, you got to get me out of it, or I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. Maybe to save a couple of salary cap dollars in here, I guess, versus maybe some compensatory formula stuff. I don't know. But I was a bit surprised to see that come across this morning.
That's the news there. So no Baker story whenever the Steelers play Carolina here in 2 weeks. Again, I still ask the question, who is even in Carolina at this point? The whole coaching staff's gone. The whole roster's been turned over. Just a mess of a year for the Panthers. But to bring it back to...
You agree that's another game that's a game the Steelers should win, right?
They should. They better. Right? In Steelers fashion, they don't always do those kinds of things. But, I mean, listen, it's just to quickly talk about this. I mean, they're 5-7. They're still a ways away from playoffs, but you're facing a potentially Lamar-less Ravens team this weekend. Then Carolina. I mean, the rest of the schedule is not looking all that terrifying.
Right. And, I mean, I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but it's not, they're not eliminated right now either.
They just didn't dig themselves a major hole. If they didn't lose to the Jets, if they didn't do some of those things and they'd won some of those games, then they would literally be right in the wild card hunt right now. So if it just wasn't that deep hole they dug themselves, then they'd really be in a serious conversation.
Just win the next game. That should be the only thing they're looking at right now, is just to win the next game. Because if you don't beat Baltimore, it doesn't matter. It just if it does, it's a single elimination tournament right now, right?
Well, I think in theory, although it's probably unlikely, if you went 9-8, if you lost one game and then won the rest, you're 9-8. I mean, you need probably a lot of help. Make it because of tiebreakers with Cleveland and stuff like that, but you would need a lot of help. But I think you could lose one game and theoretically still have a chance.
All right. Well, who's the one game that you'd be able to lose to? It has to be Baltimore, right? Lose one of the two to Baltimore, I would think.
Or Carolina, because it's out of conference, I guess, from that perspective. But I don't know.
All right, circling back to red zone problems with this team here. This team took 7 snaps within the red zone. And you want to get into semantics here. I guess technically red zone is from the 1 to the 19-yard line. Is considered inside the red zone. They ran, what would I tell you? They ran 7 plays. I'm going to read them off to you. Penalty on Kevin Dotson.
It's a bad start.
That's not even a play.
Yeah.
Penalty on Kevin Dotson. Kevin Dotson, false start, 5 yards, and forced at the Atlanta 12. So that backs you up to the 17. Luckily, that shooting in the foot did not come back to haunt them, because I guess the next play, Kenny Pickett passed deep middle to Connor Heyward for 17 yards, touchdown. And we will get to that play specifically here in a little bit, so please bear with us because we got a lot to talk about there. The next play in the red zone, penalty on Deontay Johnson, false start for 5 yards, enforced at the Atlanta 14 for no play. And I believe that let's see, that would have taken you to the 19. So the very next play after that, Benny Snell, left guard, to the Atlanta 17 for 2 yards in total. And I would imagine that was the second down play, if I remember. The next play, I think Scott reported in as eligible. Kenny Pickett pass incomplete, deep right to Deontay Johnson. That was the one that, that's one that we didn't talk about in the incompletion portion of Pickett in this game. If that ball's up a little bit higher, Deontay has a chance to make a play on that ball, but it's just a little bit underthrown into the back of the defender, and that one would have taken a remarkable play to get completed, correct?
Correct. Not a great ball, and Deontay still looking for his first touchdown of the season, which is a crazy thought.
Did you like the call? Did you like the decision to go for the end zone there?
Yeah, I didn't mind that. Got a good matchup. I mean, take the chance there. Just a better ball would have had a better chance.
All right, and then the next play, was that second down or third down? That play was to Deontay.
I can try to check, but I'm not sure. I think it was second down.
Yeah, I think it was second down, because I think the next play, 5:33 penalty on Pittsburgh, delay a game, 5 yards. Yeah, that would have been the next play in there. So, and then the seventh snap inside the red zone was the Kenny Pickett kneel down to end the game. So, they
discount that.
Yeah, so they didn't do themselves really any favors. You know, you get the touchdown. You did get the touchdown to Connor Heyward there. You had a chance on another deep pass, throw to the end zone there, but you have three penalties in total inside the red zone there. That's not the way you want to do things down there.
Yeah, when you have the hierarchy of plays in the red zone, at the top is a very good one, the 17-yard touchdown, and then your next best play is a 2-yard run. So whenever that's your next best play in the red zone, typically an issue. So issues with both getting into the red zone and stalling out in that red zone fringe, say the 21 to the 35-yard line, and then the times you got in there, Heyward touchdown aside, which, as you said, great call, great result, just difficulty with mistakes and stalling out. So when we talk about, they got to beat Baltimore, they got to, have this great run, they got to finish these drives off more, because yes, it worked out. It was enough to get the win against the Colts and the Falcons, but it's not always going to be enough. You can't get 19 points and usually win those games. And so those are very much things this team has to improve on, and improve on quickly.
Circle this back to Pickett. There's about three more passes he completes in this game, it really changes the complexion of the game, I think. One of them, sure, obviously to Freiermuth. That's going to be a touchdown right there. Who knows what happens if you give Deontay a better pass in the end zone that we just talked about there in that group of red zone plays there. And what's another pass in there that maybe you should add? One of the ones to Sims. Oh, we forgot the other one of Sims going out of bounds and then back into bounds.
Tough game.
Illegal touching there. So another one that probably should have been in the completion category there. I'm not trying to excuse some of these throws. I'm just trying to say that there were a handful of throws that Kenny should have had completed in this game, and a couple of them his own fault. And if he made 2 or 3 of those completions there, the game's probably not as close.
Sure, it's usually how it goes. I'm sure the Falcons are saying the same about Mariota. If he completes 2-3 more passes, they probably have a whole different, complexity to their game. So, point taken. I mean, it was close, but as Pickett said, close can get you a loss, and so it's not horseshoes and hand grenades, and close is not good enough. It has to be the results. But again, still good offensive balance. It's not a bad performance. Just talking about where this team can get better.
I thought Matt Canada called a heck of a game, to be honest with you, going back through
we're going to lose listenership to that. No, I think you're right. I mean, was there anything in particular, or it just felt like there was something catastrophic?
No, it felt very balanced. It felt like a lot of it flowed. And yeah, I mean, look, you're never going to get any of us to go through a game and say, man, every call was excellent. Yeah, there's a couple of them I would have liked to seen maybe different in this game, but I thought top to bottom and balance and giving them chances to execute down and distance. I thought he called a good game overall. That might have been his best game that he's called, to be quite honest with you.
I don't know. Was there ever even one play where you didn't even like it? I mean, I'm just trying to think about what was the worst call that he had.
One of the gunner in around.
Yeah,
I'm done with that. What else?
But nothing really got you out of your seat. Really,
right.
Not the watch shovel pass or anything crazy like that.
Right, and look, I thought the inside run from the wing position with Watt on the short. I mean, that really caught them off guard. Yeah, obviously, if that doesn't work, then it's a bad call, right? But have we seen that from kind of the wing spot?
No,
I don't think we have.
I'm not even sure what to call it. I don't know if it's like a fullback belly or what the right terminology, but yeah, how about Derek Watt being a secret weapon on third one? I think this CBS broadcast said he's 5 for 5 on third down carries this year. Didn't expect that one. Didn't have that on my bingo card coming into the year.
And look, people get so upset when you praise certain people on Twitter or whatnot, man. People, if you listen to this show enough, we call the good, we call the bad. We don't gain anything by taking sides in any of this. We never have at this point. We're very established with the site and the podcast at this point. And we don't need to really pander any of this. I mean, why can't we just say that this was a good game by nicely called game by Matt Canada, and then move on to next week where he might crap the bed?
Yeah, I mean, again, the old 22 usually gives me a better picture and feel for how games got called, but I was pretty happy with what Canada seemed to game plan for.
All right, I'm going to give you the stage here to talk about the Connor Heyward touchdown. What Cam Heyward said after the game, and a little nostalgia history to go along with this.
Yeah, that's one reason why I mentioned top of the show, kind of an emotional game, because it was a very emotional day for the Heyward family. Of course, the late Craig Ironhead Heyward played several seasons in Atlanta. Connor Heyward himself was born and grew up in Atlanta, or in the Georgia area, I should say. And so for Connor Heyward having his first career touchdown, a 17-yard catch early in this game, pretty special overall, and just a really good play call, a great route by Heyward, that little why not, whatever you want to call it, to kind of fake outside, like you're going to break outside on an out route or sit to get that safety to bite, and then stem vertical and get open. A good ball from Kenny and a nice finish there by Connor Heyward, who's just a really good athlete, good football player. Has made those kind of plays before. So yeah, just all that coming together. Cam Heyward after the game talking about how he and Connor that morning had gone to their father's grave to visit that, and the emotional, obviously, moment of that. And Cam Heyward saying once Connor caught that touchdown, Heyward was kind of a mess just on the sideline watching that. So just very emotional for that. And then, yeah, just one of my random rabbit holes that I went down, I just was looking up touchdown catches that Ironhead Heyward had just to see, just on the off chance. And I went through, I think he had 5 in his career.
Right in the middle of the game, right, not long after it happened, right?
Yeah, it was at halftime. It was around halftime. I was just kind of searching because I had a couple minutes. And the first 4 I looked at, they were all short touchdowns. Didn't even watch them, just saw the box score. They were 5-6 yards. I thought, okay, they're not going to be similar to what Connor did. But I went back. I was working backwards. So the very last one I looked at was the very first touchdown he had. I saw it was 22 yards. So I went, let me just go try to find it, just see what it was. And ended up being against the Rams in 91 in a pretty similar play. Not identical, but pretty similar. Craig Ironhead out of the backfield, running down the right seam, getting behind the defense, making kind of a semi-over-the-shoulder catch there, and pretty darn close to what Connor Heyward did. So in distance and play type, I don't know what that means, but that was kind of a cool thing. I just by random chance, just happened to stumble across.
Now, I would have to think that the Heyward brothers have seen that touchdown. You would think, right?
Maybe. I don't know if they would remember it in that specific sense. Maybe. I don't know. But it's probably come across the highlight reel. But I don't know if it came across. Maybe it was some like an action shot that didn't see the whole play unfold. I don't know. I saw that Cam retweeted it. So maybe he saw it. I mean, he saw it at least then.
I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think they saw that and say, hey, let's kind of mimic the.
No.
I think this is, I think that's just one of those things that things in life that happens that makes you say, sometimes, know, how the universe and all is maybe all connected. And I don't know, but that was a super great find by you. And obviously, man, there's even major media retweeting that, Alex, from Pittsburgh major media as well too. There's going to all them Pittsburgh media people are going to get on each other for retweeting something of yours, I think, here in these next 24 hours here. But yeah, great find. And really the significance of it with obviously being in Atlanta and Craig Ironhead and it all came together there. It was a nice moment. And as Cam Heyward said, good thing the cameras weren't on him because he was pretty shook up. So just a nice. The Heywards are such a good people, and even the mom seems like such a sweetheart and all, on top of it. So good things happen to good people, and that was definitely a situation I think there in Atlanta in that game for Connor Heyward and the Heyward family.
Amen to that. And the other weird thing is, I was trying to find that game, that Rams Saints game in 91 where Aaron had caught that first touchdown, and that game had only been uploaded 12 days ago when I found that clip. So just recently somebody very, very weird stuff there, but great moment overall, and that one meant a lot. And also, I just have to say on the Ironhead touchdown, what a clean pocket. What a great job by that Saints offensive line. That quarterback had all day. But cool moment there. But again, to bring it to the present, the here and now, Connor Heyward, I mean, this dude's just a football player, just a good route runner out in space. He just gets the job done. And even I think you would point out that was a pretty similar play to what he had his final touchdown in Michigan State against Pitt in that bowl game last year down the right seam. Not identical, but pretty close in terms of just that's his spot. Right seam is apparently where Connor Heyward makes his hay.
Yeah, and eerie enough, that happened against Pitt, right?
Right. Ironhead's team, they played. Yeah, you can.
And obviously Kenny Pickett, the link there as well too. So anyway, that was a great find by you, especially in short notice. And kudos to you. Kudos to the Heywards too.
Yeah, absolutely. So any other thoughts here on this offense? O-line playing clean overall. Stunt seemed to be cleaner. I thought Pickett had a good amount of time in the pocket, and just a clean performance overall.
Yeah, and I guess another one of the incompletions came early there where they send that heavy pressure, and poor Pat Fryermuth was caught out on the edge. There's only so much you could. He held up for as long as he could until he got tossed aside, but then Pickett gets hit, and then that ball falls incomplete, right?
Yeah, Fryermuth does not do a lot of pass pro. I think that came against Lorenzo Carter, a pretty strong dude overall. So not Fryermuth's forte, but he made up for it later.
My main takeaway from offense is nice to see him run the football. I thought Najee's best game of his career, NFL career. Pickett, good enough. And you just want to see the red zone conversions, see him put sevens on the board instead of threes.
All right, let's talk receivers here. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, probably more off the field stuff than anything on the field. In terms of at least the attitude. Well, with Johnson, it was more on the field. With Pickens, it was more just the attitude and his frustration in this game. Let's start with Deontay. I mean, he made a couple of plays. He was running forward, and so that's a good box to check. And, had one of the key conversions late in that game to help kill a lot of clock. Although the Falcons were playing off coverage very strangely to allow that much space there. But what was your thought on Deontay Johnson's performance?
It's got to be better. It's got to be more consistent. It'd been nice to see him get a better ball in the end zone on that one. But the Steelers got fortunate on that review, I think.
I thought for sure that was a fumble.
I thought that was a fumble. I thought it was going to stay a fumble there, and it was going to be interesting to see maybe how, we'll never know how the game would have went from that moment on or whatnot. But the drop, two drops now, it's got to be better than that, period.
Yeah, it does. It's got to be, again, as you wrote about, and I agree with, he has not been always used correctly this year. We all understand, hopefully, and agree to that. But at the same time, he was
used correctly, I thought, in this game.
Sure, I think so too.
From a route, I mean, I haven't seen the all 22 with the rest of the routes that he didn't get the ball on. But we've been calling for him to get the football in space more, and he had the opportunity on that on one of the crossers. If he catches that, he probably goes. Who knows? He might end up in the end zone in that one. In that first drop there. The second thing I wanted to see him is attack, being able to throw the football down vertically, and that happened. Unfortunately, it wasn't as good of a pass. And then the other one down the left side of his attack vertically, and probably once again has some probably a ball that Kenny Pickett probably shouldn't have thrown that. But at least we're seeing him used now in ways that he should be used, and a couple of them not his fault for where the ball placement was, but on a couple of the other ones there, you can't drop those footballs.
Right. I mean, he's not giving you a lot of reasons to continually to get him involved and make him that focal point, because it's just been frustrating. And again, I thought for sure that was a fumble. I still think it probably was a fumble. It was close, but had that been a fumble, had that call stood, I mean, does Pittsburgh win that game? The whole story of that game changes.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, now the elephant in the room.
Now George Pickens, who held to just one catch for 2 yards on a little sprint out. I think he had, was it just that one target? He had 2 targets in this game?
He had 2 targets in the game.
What was the other?
What was the other one?
Nothing that I can remember. I don't know if it was a throwaway or something that kind of just.
No, it wasn't a throwaway. I
it was like 2nd and 15 on the first drive, short left. I don't remember the play, but
that was the one. That was the one that went high, wasn't it?
What? I don't remember the play. So you probably right about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the one that was a little bit high on him.
Anyway,
over his head.
Very frustrated George Pickens in this game for the lack of involvement in production, who was seen on the sidelines, kind of all the stages of sulking and then anger and rinse repeat. So a young guy. And again, we don't want to, I know some will make more out of this than probably what should be, what should happen. But Pickens, my terrible take today is just on Pickens has to understand the offense he's in. There's going to be ebbs and flows, the role he plays. He's a competitor. You appreciate that. But there are going to be these dud kind of weeks. It's going to be just how it's going to have to how it's going to have to be at some points this season.
I'll say it. It's bad optics. He's got to cut it out. It's going to become a talking point, and the fans, a good selection of the fans right now are okay with it because they feel, he's got it right because Matt Canada's not calling plays to get him the football, yada, yada. The fact of the matter is you can't act like that because it becomes a top. The TV cameras get on you. The TV cameras start getting trained to get on you in certain situations and that thing's going to snowball on him. Somebody needs to get to this kid and look, I understand him wanting the ball. I mean, without a doubt, you're not. Kenny said it after the game. Yeah, he's a competitor. All these guys want the ball. All right, that's not uncommon here, but you got to be careful. How you go about wearing your emotions here, and he's not doing a good job right now in his rookie season when it comes to that. And after the game, declining in the interviews, not going to help. People say,
"No, I think that's a good thing." If you're frustrated and mad, you don't want to. No.
You got. I think you got to atone. I think you got to answer for your actions, man.
I think if you're frustrated, you shouldn't talk to the media because you might start saying stuff that's going to make this even a bigger story. Because there's going to be probing questions.
I disagree because it's just good. Because I disagree. You want to act like that, then answer the questions after the game. That's my thought on it.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. I just a player being frustrated in a game is commonplace. It happens literally every single week. Sure. But I understand you want to restrain some of those things.
More than we even know.
But you're right. The spotlight is on George Pickens for the position he plays. It's different if your left guard is mad versus if, your star rookie receiver is mad. I think to the larger point, I just don't want Pickens to ride that emotional roller coaster at the first sign of trouble. Last week against the Colts, drops a pass, kind of starts sulking a little bit. Deontay, to his credit, talks to him, tries to keep his spirits up. It's the NFL. It's going to be some tough moments, some tough games. Teams are now starting to probably roll coverage to Pickens because he's the guy making all the plays. So you're kind of feeling what it's when he was a rookie, he's still a rookie, but early in the year when the coverage was rolled more to Deontay and people didn't really know what George Pickens was and what he was about and what he could do, it was easier for Pickens, I'm sure. Now he's probably seeing more attention and teams trying to game plan and scheme him away. And so these moments are going to happen. I just don't want it to be where after just a little bit of time or one bad play, you're kind of in a funk. You got to make sure you're not in that situation because you're going to have to play that complete 60-minute game.
Yeah, we got 5 games left. How many more times do we have to see Cam Heyward and Deontay Johnson calming him down on the sideline?
Right. I understand the frustration, but
he's a great player. I'm glad he's on the Steelers. Don't get this will all be taken wrong because old man Dane's shaking his fist at the clouds here. But and I get it. But let me tell you, this is the kind of thing that into his second and third year, he's gonna end up falling out of favor. And it's cute right now to say, well, we get it because Matt Canada's not calling them plays. But let me tell you, this is not how many times have we seen this over the years, Alex? Whether it be in Pittsburgh or elsewhere, this stuff grows tiresome with players and their antics on the field not getting the football.
Sure, you don't want to have this be a talking point every single week. And again, for Pickens,
nip it in the bud right now.
Sure. Yeah, and again, there's going to be moments where Pickens is going to make a mistake or not get the ball immediately or whatever the case is. Feel like he's open and the pass goes elsewhere. You just don't want to react so strongly to that at every sort of sign of trouble. It's a long game. He'll make his plays. He'll have a good game next week probably, and it's the ebb and flow of a season. And the more plays you make, the more attention you get, the harder it is to make some of those plays. And he's probably feeling that for the first time, and there's natural frustration that comes from that. But you want to make sure this is not something that's evident in a talking point and happening every single game.
Look, this is Kenny's team right now too. This is a point where Kenny's got to go to him too, and say, look, I do my best to get you the ball when I can, but there are going to be times maybe where I don't. So you got to try to nip this in the bud.
Yeah, because when you're frustrated like that, then you're not playing your best football and you're in your head. And I just don't want Pickens to live in his own head, basically, whenever something bad happens. It's the short statement I want to make about that. So it'll be a story. It's probably a bigger story than it should to me, but not something that you want to see repeated over and over and over again.
Man, all right, I hope we're not continuing to talk about this. That's for sure. Any
other thoughts here with this offense?
No.
All right, let's go over
a lot of it.
Yeah, Steelers defense, probably a bit less to say overall. Very similar to the Colts game. Strong first half, kind of waned in the second half, third quarter, run defense, things like that. There was certainly a time where Atlanta got its run game very much going. And the big important thing was trying to get some wins on first down. And, of course, any defense wants to win on first down. But against Atlanta in particular, because they're such a run-heavy team, if you could win on first down, you get them off schedule, you force them to throw, their offense really has nothing to offer. But once Atlanta in the second half got some wins on first down, they were in rhythm, they stayed on schedule. That's when they really started to move the football. And so that was kind of my takeaway in terms of what changed from the first half to the second half. Atlanta's first down success, a pretty key component.
Absolutely. And you could kind of feel because of the way the score was in this one at halftime that and I think I even put it on Twitter that they're going to try to continue to do something they didn't do in the first half, which was establish the run with Cordarrelle Patterson, and they did. And they started to run really downhill against the Steelers too, especially on that right side, running right over there. And props to this. I mean, there was how many times did TJ Watt try to mesh charge in this and at least get a body on Mariota? I think I counted 4 times at least, and I might have missed some in there overall. But it wasn't enough. I think the Steelers were flat out just kind of getting whooped off the line as well, too. Pushback. It'd be interesting to see some of the gap responsibilities when we get to all 22, because you can't pick up a lot of those in the TV tape there. But it really did feel like the Falcons were kind of taking over the game with their possessions, in the second half. And it also felt like, too, how many times we talk about, man, the Steelers got to stop these unforced penalties, man. They're killing them. Well, that happened to the Falcons in the second half of this game. Their unforced penalties was a huge difference in this game.
Yeah, that was really the thing that took them out of their rhythm was, getting a holding penalty or a false start. And again, first down success, forcing this team to throw on second down as opposed to run on first and second down. That's kind of the difference between stalling this Falcons offense or not. But, I feel like Pittsburgh, they weren't missing a bunch of tackles. They were getting blown off the ball and they weren't getting off of blocks. Right. And you combine those two things, you're going to have a bad time against a team like the Falcons that very much wants and is capable of running the football.
What would you say? What would you say about the lack of pressure in this one overall?
I'm not surprised. I mentioned that on Friday. I said I don't think they're going to get a lot of pressure because A, the Falcons run the heck out of the football, and B, they run play action, they move the pocket, so there aren't going to be a lot of great rush opportunities. So no, T.J. Watt did not have a good game. Alex Highsmith, a really quiet game, just one tackle overall. But I'm not surprised by the lack of the outside linebacker production because I felt like this game was not designed for those outside linebackers to really get a lot of pressure.
Right. Only 24 attempts in this game. And what was his average time to throw? Do you
I have no idea. No, I mean, it probably was somewhat longer on some of the play action stuff, but they shift the pocket. They sell run. Just never really felt like there were a lot of opportunities in this game.
And plus, I'm convinced TJ was smart and pretty good in this one.
Oh, yeah, he definitely was feeling it, especially late in that game. But you got some interior pressure. Cam Heyward collapsed the pocket. He picked up his fifth sack of the season. And even on the Minka pick six, if you watch that, I want to see the all 22, but it felt like Heyward was collapsing that pocket pretty good. So there was definitely some better interior pressure, which you didn't really get a week ago. You had more of that in this game.
Time to throw on Marcus Mariota, 2.77 seconds. So that's pretty,
pretty quick. Yeah, about average. A little
above average there when it comes to that. Kenny Pickett, by the way, 3.29 seconds. Whew.
Like his college number.
Whew. Holding that football. All right. Mariota missed a few throws. One in the first half, I think, to London that he's lucky that one wasn't picked. Kind of overthrew. I think it was London. Down the right seam there. Feels like Mariota should have made that one on one of the blitzes as well too. London down the left side. I think it was in the second half. Kind of felt like, man, you got a guy running wide open like that. You better hit him like that. And he didn't. Cameron Sutton, a couple of nice pass breakups in this game, right?
Yeah, I thought Cam Sutton quietly had a really good game overall. Maybe I can pull up my defensive charting here. So give me a second here on that. But I thought not only in terms of the breakups, he had one on London on that first drive. I think he had one on that deep ball on that kind of scramble drill to. I don't know if he got a hand on it, but he contested it enough, and so that was good to see. But I thought his open field tackling on Drake London. How about the one? It was second down. It was after the Falcons penalty. They're in the red zone, and they throw that curl comeback to London. And Pittsburgh's bringing some pressure on that play. If Sutton does not make that tackle, that's probably a touchdown for Drake London. Right. That's a big guy. And so I think Sutton's been really improved as a tackler over the years. I thought what he did as a tackler in the open field against London, really important in this one. So let me just try to pull up his target numbers here.
Yeah, we talk about while you're pulling that up, the Falcons shooting themselves in the foot. There were a couple. Boy, that Cordarrelle Patterson touchdown around left in there. It was the right call, I think, on the holding call on Malik Reed, but I'm not so sure that maybe Patterson still don't score there if Malik Reed gets off that block. But big play, obviously, in that game for them. Ended up having to settle for a field goal there after being, down in there, looking like they were going to score.
Like you said, Falcons beating Falcons. That was certainly a theme in this one. Cam Sutton targeted, according to my charting, 6 times, allowed just 3 completions for 33 yards. So I would consider that a good performance overall.
Yeah, look, I mean, they didn't get whooped a ton for. In fact, how many explosives did the Falcons have in this game?
One to London, I think.
Let's
I think just the one. Maybe a couple of runs. I'm sorry, maybe 3.
You had deep right to London for 37. You had a Patterson right in run for 22 in the third quarter, and then they had that Algier right tackle run for 20 yards in the game. So they had three explosive plays, 2 on the ground, man. And the Steelers had 3 explosive plays on top of it. With that, actually, the Steelers had 2 explosive plays, but one kind of gets counted. The Benny Snell run for 11 yards, and then the horse collar tackle for made that a 25 yard play in that. So look, the ball moved more than 20 yards down the field, so you might as well call it an explosive play. So 3-3 on the explosive plays there.
Gotcha. Yeah, but Pittsburgh winning the turnover battle, and they did so on the final play the Falcons had in this game with Minkah Fitzpatrick after, again, that great punt by Presley Harvin put the ball at the 1-2 yard line. Minkah calling game, cover 2. I've not seen the all-22 view of it yet, but just watching one of the replays that the broadcast showed, you just see Minkah watching the eyes of Mariota the entire time, drives on the football, and then, to me, a very unselfish play to walk out of bounds as opposed to trying to pick 6 that one.
Yeah, probably made some fantasy owners mad. Not probably. I know he did, but he hunts those things, doesn't he? How many times? I mean, there was one against the Colts that ended up being not as close as what I originally thought it would be, but he likes that lurker robber role, doesn't he?
Yeah, Dave, he really does. And they've been able to spin and rotate him more this year with some of the veteran presences in the secondary. Casey's return has probably helped facilitate that a bit more. So, again, need to see the all-22. I don't know if that was a robber lurk call. Again, I think it was probably cover 2, but I need to be able to get a clearer picture to that. But regardless, the principle of read the eyes of the quarterback, drive on the football, make the play, that's Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Right. And just kudos to him. I almost tweeted pick 6, but I understand why he did it, and it's the right thing for him to do there. Run out of bounds, or
it is, but
stay short of the goal line. It
is so unselfish because that's important when you're talking about all pros and record books. I mean, to have 2 pick 6s in a season doesn't happen very often. And I mean, you're talking about defensive player of the year. If you want to make any sort of, throw your hat in the ring in that conversation, you need those kind of plays. And so for Minkah, just to give that up, to say, hey, we've got the win. I don't want to stat pad. I don't want to put my defense out there again. I want to go home. To me, I think you have to really recognize that is a very unselfish play.
Right, because the context will get lost. Period.
Yeah, it'll be forgotten. And by, April, no one's going to remember that moment there, but the stat would have been there forever. So
right.
Pretty big moment.
Right. I mean, and look, I mean, you look back at over the annals because we don't have access to a lot of the older games, from the 70s and 80s to help add context to the things like the Elsie Greenwood and stuff like that. Even though you have video with this, and this video will survive, a long time. How many people will go back and add the context to it,
Sure. Had he picked 6 that one, he would have had 4 in his career, in his Steelers career at least. That would have been tied for the 3rd most in team history and 1 away from tying first place, held by both William Gay and Rod Woodson. So just from a record standpoint, all that kind of stuff, you don't get those chances too often. And so again, just to make the point one last time, you pass up on that, you decide to, just speaks to the level of player and the character that Minkah Fitzpatrick has.
Well, hopefully the ball won't lie overall. So maybe he gets one here in this next game or 2.
Any other thoughts here with this defense? I thought the interior lineman played well. Heyward Ogunjobi on that one play against Drew Dalman just ran him way back into the Cordarrelle Patterson, shed him, and made the tackle for a loss. So
I don't think they played as well maybe as you painted there up front. We'll have to see what the all 20. It felt like they got pushed around in the second half. It really
sure.
did.
I think from the run defense, I think that was more first half stuff. So you're right on that. I mean, I thought Cam, in terms of collapse in the pocket, again, I'll have to go back and watch the all 22. I don't know how some of the other guys did. And I was going to say, Ogunjobi's a hot and cold player to me. I mean, he's got some really good reps and some reps that you kind of want to have back. So he's kind of a bit inconsistent overall. The inside linebackers, they're probably getting swallowed up a good bit. Miles Jack does not look healthy. He can't run. I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, to me, I just feel like this guy cannot run right now with that knee injury.
I did. That didn't stick out to me yesterday, but it gives me something now to look for in the all-22 on that.
So, I mean, I feel like he's definitely going to be one of those guys that has that scope, after the season, one of those off-season surgery type dudes, because that knee, I think, is bugging him. Pretty good overall. Other secondary, Levi Wallace, I think, has made plays in the football. Casey, getting some of the big nickel stuff. They were working pretty heavily because the Falcons go so many tight ends and some weird personnel groupings and things like that. So a lot of action for DeMonte Casey. Actually, it was a couple of snaps he was playing over Edmonds, even in just two safety situations. So something to note there.
How did you like how Edmonds was being used in this, in this one specifically?
I mean, pretty much a box safety, line of scrimmage the entire game, dime linebacker playing up near the line of scrimmage, very much facing the fan type of usage.
Okay. All right. Anything else stick out in the charting? Blitzing, linebackers dropping?
Not much dropping. One time I think they ran a 3-man pressure. I think they had a Cam Sutton blitz where they brought the defensive lineman and dropped up both outside linebackers and brought Sutton, who almost had a sack, and I think he got a pressure on Mariota on that play. So some different stuff there, but not much Millette in this game a little bit, but it was mainly Sutton playing inside quite a bit in this game when they went sub-package, which did not happen all that often, but when it did, it was generally speaking Sutton inside. Yeah,
Millette only played like, 7 snaps? 6 snaps, 6 defensive snaps for Millette in this game.
But you thought it'd be more because of this run-heavy approach, but really Casey, they were using the big nickel stuff as opposed to Millette, so it was kind of Casey working over Millette is the way that I figured.
What was your biggest, what's your biggest concern about defense coming out? It's just the way that they were pushed around in the second half in particularly. What was not 100% either,
no.
And that's a big part of it there. There was a couple plays, I think, over on his side that you would think normally he makes it with some of these runs.
Yeah, there was one. I think it was the Patterson 22-yarder, or at least some run where he tried to punch the football out, and he's not even being tackled. And so, Watt, you got to. I know that punch out can be really effective, but the guy's got to be stood up first, or it's got to come from behind him or something. You can't go for the punch out instead of the tackle. So just some stuff there. Yeah, I just think in the concerns to run defense leaky in the second half. I mean, again, Atlanta, that's their bread and butter. They're going to run the ball if they want to. They're going to eventually get some meat on that. So I'm not terribly concerned, but certainly the run defense waning in the second half, not what you want to see.
All right, what else we got?
I think it probably covers it pretty well for me. Talked about special teams. A weird stat, somebody had pointed this out to me. I didn't realize this. Pittsburgh did not call a timeout in this game. When's the last time that ever happened? Did not use a single timeout in this game.
Let me search the game book.
At least that somebody told me that. I believe that's true. I didn't specifically look it up myself, but I don't recall them calling a timeout in this one. So means probably little to nothing, but that was kind of interesting.
Speaking of which, what did you think about hold on a minute here. What did you think about the decision by Atlanta to not hold on a minute here.
Not use their timeouts at the end of the game there?
Yeah.
Felt weird. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not seeing any timeouts for Pittsburgh in this game. And then I guess the biggest thing was Kenny Pickett pass short right to Deontay at Atlanta 39 for 10 yards. Okay, that was beforehand. 2nd and 3, Benny Snell gets 6 yards for a first down. And then 1st and 10 was the Gunnar Olszewski left in for 2 yards. And that play started at 2:39. To me, it would have made sense to immediately call the timeout there.
Yeah, again, I don't know the math of it, so maybe there's some analytics going on that I'm not aware of, but it felt like that was a misuse of the clock.
Right.
What were your thoughts quickly on both Tomlin deciding to go into the half with a lead as opposed to trying to push it, and also his decision to punt that led to that Harvin punt / Minka interception?
Say again?
Well, let me break it up. What do you think of Tomlin's decision? End of the first half, 3 timeouts. He is backed up though, long field to just run the ball and close at the half as opposed to trying to pass the ball and maybe get 3 points. Were you good with the decision to just have it?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Don't make a silly mistake in that situation.
Yeah, I think we just get the long field aspect. Had they been at, say, their 40-yard line, different conversation, but I'm okay with that. And these things are easier to say in hindsight after a win, but also, and then his decision on it would have been fourth and what's the situation there? It was 4th and 6 to not kick the field goal instead of in deciding to punt the football. Instead, it was 4th and 6 at Atlanta's 35-yard line, so a 52-yard attempt. What did you think of the decision there?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, me too. I think, because if you miss that one, Atlanta has great field position, needing only 3 points with a good kicker. So I'm good with that as well. So all worked out there for Tomlin.
Right, I agree.
All right, I think it probably wraps things up pretty well. What are your just quick thoughts on Week 13? Big fourth quarter for the Cowboys, 33 points. What a crazy game that was. There was the Colts look just a wreck. Deshaun Watson's return did not play well, but the Browns did enough to get the victory. Lamar Jackson, his stat is very much up in the air for the Steelers game with a knee injury, and the Bengals own the Chiefs with another win over Mahomes and Kansas City.
Boy, I tell you, the Bengals, when they play good, they play really good, don't they? Mm-hmm. There are times, and they obviously got Jamar Chase back and looked, even without Joe Mixon, the fungibility of Samaje Perine. I was able to get fungibility in this podcast here. But look, there's certain points where they look really, really good offensively, like they can't be beat there. Baltimore just skated by, even though I thought brief, quick kind of look at some of the highlights. Huntley seemed to play okay at backup quarterback. They just couldn't put the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, I didn't see many highlights. It doesn't sound like there were many highlights in a 10-9 game, but Huntley fits that offense. He's not Lamar, but he's got a similar skill set. So their offense is not going to change much with Lamar potentially being out.
Right. It's still going to be a challenge against Baltimore for sure with him. And Watson looked, at least on quick highlight, looked kind of rusty, for lack of the better term there. Debo, James Harris is going to be on the Ben Roethlisberger podcast, so I would imagine maybe that's probably going to drop tonight or tomorrow with James Harrison and Ben Roethlisberger reviewing that game.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. Can't wait for some classic Debo stories. And just a quick follow up, according to Joe Pearson, who I believe covers the Panthers. Baker Mayfield requested his release, and the Panthers agreed to it. So that's why the move happened. Baker wanted out of Carolina.
Where does he go? San Fran?
That's what everyone's saying, but I feel like, is that too obvious? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it makes sense, but I guess we'll find out when the waiver claims process, I guess it'd be by tomorrow for him.
Right. All right. We'll be back on this on Wednesday, right? And
maybe do any quick emails here real quick. We're running short on time, but maybe just 2 or 3 quick emails to close out today's show.
Let me pull them up real quick.
I'm sure we have a couple of messages.
Let's see. Bryce. We hit Bryce all the time. Let's get some other people in here. Pastor Joe Green. I believe that our hometown heroes are beginning to display an identity as Pickett continues to develop his passing chops. Those broadening skills will add some quick hitter spice to the mix. My question, good grief, would Dan Moore make a decent guard? ? I would have. If I have to watch him jump early again out of fear of being beat around the edge, I fear for the future of my TV. I'm serious. Do you think he could play guard? We already discussed this, Pastor Joe Brown. I don't know if you're behind a couple episodes here. It is clear that his future is not at tackle. I didn't think it was an awful game by Dan Moore, to be honest with you.
No, the penalties are an issue. He's got 9 of them this year. That's right. Most on the team. So that's a problem. But other than that, I thought it was fine for Dan Moore. Could he play at guard? We talked about that. Maybe, but I worry about the lack of power. Again, dealing with power rushes, kind of his issue overall.
From Rich Hud, just here is his name. Good morning, Dave and Alex. I have some thoughts and I want to know if you can offer either confirmation or adjustment. Matt Canada's playing structure and call timing worry me. Football is relatively simple. Sometimes it seems he tries to outthink himself, a la the George into the slot experiment. Najee looks like a different running back. Was he really that hurt? ? Kenny's best outlook seems to be Kirk Cousins type, which isn't bad at all, knowing this is where do you get him help? He says, I don't believe TJ is 100% healthy. He's moving, but I see him wince sometimes going to the sideline. Another one, is it time to move on from Tomlin, not based on in performance, but more renewing the message? Coaches' messages get stale after a while. I believe at this point, he's the longest tenured head coach in Steelers history, right? He says Dan Moore, he is a good backup tackle that has to. This looks like a lot of scattered.
Yeah, is this all one email? This is all one?
Yeah. This is all kind of scattered, I guess, thoughts here.
Well, first of all, Chuck Noll is the longest tenured.
Right.
It's not McDonald.
Najee, yes, Najee looks like a different running back right now. Was he really hurt? I mean, he's a lot more physical right now. I'll tell you that. He seems to be running a lot better there. So I that would probably be correct. Kenny being Kirk Cousins, it's too early for any of that, in my opinion. Let's just watch this guy develop on through the rest of this season here before we start calling him this, that, and the other. He says, I don't believe TJ is 100% healthy. I'd agree with you. I think Alex and I talked about that. He looked to be in some pain yesterday. No, I don't think it's time to move on from Tomlin, be quite honest with you. Alex, do you think it's time to move on from Tomlin?
No, there's critiques of Tomlin, and the lack of success since 2016 is frustrating and unacceptable, but I'm not in the fire Tomlin camp.
Matt Canada's playing structure and play call timing worrying me. Football is relatively simple. Look, it hadn't been great at times. I think the last couple of games have been a lot better for Matt. And also, I think execution has been a little bit better, especially with the run game. I think the better the running game gets, the better Matt Canada looks.
Yeah, and the fewer penalties they commit and self-inflicted wounds and lack of turnovers, you do those things, you're going to be in a lot of games, and they were in this game and won this game.
Let's see if we can get one more here from Caleb Zavorsky. Good evening, fellas. Hope you guys are enjoying the holiday season. With Sutton being in the winners section after the game in Atlanta, what former defensive back room does our current one remind you of in Steelers past? He says, I think Sutton matches up well with Townsend, and Wallace reminds me of Bryant McFadden. So I'd say 2007-ish, he writes. Also, it might just be me, but Highsmith has not looked impressive the past 3 games and Watt the last 2. Could you have any idea why? As far as matching up the secondary, man, you got to remember back when I mean, there's a lot of zone coverages way back, and now you're seeing a lot more man stuff. So I don't even see how it's even kind of fair to kind of say, does this DB room resemble of a former DB room, let's say going back to 2004 or at least during the LeBeau era, because just so much different style being played in the secondary.
Yeah, but I get the comparison. Sutton, Townsend, not athletically super toolsy, but smart guys, got the job done. Wallace, McFadden, yeah, I can kind of see that. The problem, though, is that they need Mike Taylor. They need a number 1 guy in that room. They don't have that guy right now.
All right. What would you say about the Highsmith and Watt not looking impressive, or Highsmith not looking impressive last 3 games and Watt the last 2? Look, there's a concerted effort to get that football out of these quarterbacks for the most part if they're not on the move.
Yeah, and Highsmith was great on that final drive against the Colts. I mean, he won that game. He was pretty quiet up until that point, but he was fantastic at the end. Again, the Falcons game, as I mentioned, I think I'm not surprised by the lack of their impact. I was not expecting either guy, just based on how the Falcons offense is built, to really have much success in this game.
One last one, Jeff Berg. Hello, fellas. Back-to-back wins. Hip, hip, hooray. I'm wondering if y'all feel TJ Watt came back too soon. He hasn't had any notable impact on a game since the Bungles game. Against the Falcons, neither Watt nor Highsmith did. Jeff, I think you heard Alex and I both talk about Watt and Highsmith in this game against the Falcons. Could be a short week, and maybe both will come back better after a day's rest. But look, I think they said in the broadcast, I mean, it's pretty evident I don't think Watt came back too soon. I think he just took a shot in the ribs late against the Colts. And I think he's probably still smart from that. I don't think it's from Watt coming back too soon. And we've discussed why Watt and Highsmith probably aren't impacting games, at least the last But don't forget that as we've pointed out, Highsmith really impacted the end of that Colts game. I don't know what more you want a guy to do in 3 snaps than that.
Right. Now I'm with 100%. The pec does not seem to be the issue right now. It's the ribs. It's other stuff. So nothing to do with how early TJ Watt returned.
All right. Well, if you didn't get your email read or whatnot, resend it or what have you, and maybe we'll get to it on Wednesday here. We're trying to button these shows up a little bit quicker here now moving forward here within an hour, well under 2 hours, if you will. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. We will be back on Wednesday. Thanks for everybody that, man, incredible day listenership on the podcast recently, and traffic on the site, just out of this world. We appreciate all the support you give us. So until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.